Welcome back to the channel, basketball fans. Today, we are breaking down an absolutely explosive situation that just unfolded on hardwood, a game that had absolutely everything you could ever ask for in high-stakes professional basketball. We are talking about intense physicality, we are talking about mind games, we are talking about rising tensions, and most importantly, we are talking about pure, unadulterated Filipino basketball brilliance shining through the absolute chaos. If you saw the title of this video, you already know exactly what we're getting into. It was a fiercely physical game, a true battle of attrition where the referees swallowed their whistles. The players left everything they had on the floor, and the drama was dialed up to an absolute 11. At the center of this absolute hurricane of hardwood drama was none other than our very own, the towering pride of the Philippines, Kai Sotto, going up against a player who has now earned the notorious moniker of Boy Complaint. And if that was not enough to get your heart racing, we also witnessed a breathtaking, game-defining, big-time play by the phenom himself, Kiefer Ravena. This was not just another regular season matchup. This was not just a typical day at the office in the Japan B League. No, this was a statement game. This was a grueling, gritty, physical war that tested the mental fortitude and the physical endurance of everyone involved. You see, when you step onto the court in a professional league, especially as an import player carrying the weight and the expectations of an entire basketball-crazy nation like the Philippines, you have a massive target painted squarely on your back. Opposing teams know they cannot always match Kai Sotto's sheer size, his incredible wingspan, or his soft touch around the rim. So what do? They resort to the dark arts of basketball. They get physical. They bump. They grab, they hold, and they try to get inside his head. And in this particular game, that strategy was spearheaded by an opponent who seemed far more interested in crying to the officials than actually playing the game of basketball. We have all seen this type of player before. The guy who throws his hands up in disbelief every time a call does not go his way. The guy who flops, who exaggerates contact, who spends more energy arguing with the referees than he does getting back on transition defense. That is exactly what Kai Sotto was dealing with today. But instead of getting dragged down into the mud, instead of losing his cool and reacting to the constant whining and the dirty little tricks, Kai Sotto showed a level of maturity that should put the entire basketball world on notice. He stood his ground, he took the hits, and he let his game do the talking. But the story does not end there. Because when the game was on the line, when the pressure was at its absolute peak and the atmosphere in the arena was thick enough to cut with a knife, veterans step up, and there is no veteran quite like Kiefer Ravena. We're going to break down the exact moment, the precise basketball chess move that Kiefer executed perfection, delivering a big-time play that essentially ripped the heart out of the opposing team. We're going to look at the basketball IQ, the court vision, and the sheer audacity it takes to make that kind of play in such a hostile, physical environment. So buckle up, grab your snacks, settle in, and get ready for a deep dive unlike any other. We are going to dissect the defensive schemes used to try and contain Kai Sotto. We are going to analyze the psychology of dealing with a chronic complainer on the court. We are going to break down Kiefer Ravena's mastery of the pick and roll and his uncanny ability to read the defense. We are leaving absolutely no stone unturned in this comprehensive breakdown of one of the most talked about, intensely physical games of the year. This is not just a highlight reel. This is a masterclass in basketball psychology, resilience, and veteran leadership. Let us dive right into the madness. To truly understand the magnitude of what transpired in this game, we have to peel back the layers and look at the broader context of professional basketball in Asia right now. The Japan B League has rapidly transformed into one of the most competitive, physically demanding, and tactically sophisticated basketball leagues in the entire world outside of the NBA and the Euro League. The influx of high-level imports, combined with the incredibly disciplined and fast-paced style of the local Japanese players, creates an environment that is essentially a crucible. It is a testing ground that exposes any weaknesses in a player's game, whether those weaknesses are physical, technical, or mental. When Kai Sotto stepped onto the floor for this matchup, the scouting report against him was blindingly obvious. If you are the opposing coach, you look at a 7'3" prodigy with a smooth jumper and excellent rim-protecting instincts, and you realize very quickly that you cannot let him play a clean, rhythmic game. If Kai is allowed to establish deep post position, if he is allowed to freely roll to the rim without facing any resistance, or if he is allowed to comfortably set up his face-up game, he will completely destroy your interior defense. Therefore, the mandate for the opposing big men is simple. Make his life miserable. Deny him the ball. Push him out of the paint. Use your lower body strength to root him out of his preferred spots on the block. And when he does get the ball, make sure he feels contact on every single pivot, every single pump fake, and every single shot attempt. This brings us to the fascinating dynamic of the player we are calling boy complaint. Basketball is as much a psychological war as it is a physical contest. There are players who use complaining as a deliberate, calculated weapon. By constantly being in the referee's ear, by throwing tantrums and exaggerating contact, this type of player is trying to achieve two distinct goals. First, they are trying to manipulate the whistle. They are hoping that by sheer volume and persistence, they will eventually wear down the officials and start getting favorable calls, or at the very least, make the referees hesitant to call fouls on them. Second, and perhaps more importantly, they are trying to break the focus of their matchup. Imagine being Kai Sotto in this scenario. You are already dealing with players hacking your arms, throwing elbows into your ribs during box outs and stepping on your feet. Then, on top of all that physical abuse, you have to listen to your matchup whining, crying, and begging the referee for a bailout every single time down the court. It is incredibly frustrating. It is designed to make you angry. It is designed to make you retaliate, commit a silly, aggressive foul, and take yourself out of game due to foul trouble. But this is where we have to pause and give massive, undeniable credit to Kai Sotto's mental development. In the past, perhaps a younger, less experienced version of Kai might have let that frustration boil over. He might have forced a bad shot, or he might have engaged in a shouting match, completely losing sight of the game plan. Not this time. Kai demonstrated an elite level of stoicism. He treated boy complaint exactly how a dominant big man should treat a pest, like a minor annoyance that is entirely beneath his attention. Every time the opposing player flailed his arms or shouted at the ref, Kai simply sprinted back on defense. Every time there was a hard, borderline dirty foul, Kai calmly walked to the free throw line, knocked down his shots, and got right back to work. Let us break down the specific physical tactics deployed against Kai. We saw a lot of aggressive fronting in the post. The opposing defenders were not even letting him receive the entry pass easily, fighting over the top and daring the guards to throw the lob. When Kai did manage to secure the ball, they immediately sent a hard double team from the blind side, aggressively swiping at the ball to try and force a turnover. On the defensive end, they tried to bring Kai out to perimeter, involving him in countless high pick-and-roll actions, hoping to exhaust his legs and test his lateral quickness. But Kai's conditioning has clearly hit a new level. He was hedging hard, recovering back to the paint with impressive speed, and altering countless shots at the rim. His sheer verticality, keeping his arms straight up without bringing them down a hack, completely neutralized the flop attempts of his matchup. It was a defensive masterclass in vertical spacing and rim intimidation. Now, while Kai was holding down the fort in the paint and fighting through the mud, the perimeter game was an entirely different chessboard. And sitting at the head of that board, moving the pieces with absolute precision, was Kiefer Ravena. If Kai Sotto is the future of Philippine basketball, Kiefer Ravena is the stabilizing, brilliant present. Kiefer is not the most athletically explosive player on the court anymore. He is not going to jump over a 7-footer or beat a prime athlete in a straight baseline sprint. But what Kiefer has is something far more valuable in high-stakes professional basketball, an off-the-charts basketball IQ, unparalleled spatial awareness, and ice in his veins. The big-time play we need to discuss did not just happen by accident. It was a culmination of Kiefer setting up the defense for the entire game. Throughout the first 3 quarters, Kiefer was systematically downloading the opponent's defensive tendencies. He noticed how their big man was playing drop coverage on the pick and roll. He noticed how the weak side defenders were cheating just a half step too far into the passing lanes. He noticed that in clutch, high-pressure situations, the opposing team tended to panic and overcommit to the strong side of the floor. When the moment of truth arrived, the game hanging in the balance, the crowd screaming so loud you could barely hear the referee's whistle, Kiefer took control. He called for a high screen, but he did not just use the screen blindly. He rejected the screen initially, forcing his primary defender to shift their weight, then quickly cross back over and use a rescreen. This tiny, split-second hesitation froze the entire defense. The opposing big man, perhaps worried about Kiefer's floater game, stepped up just an inch too far. The weak side defender, watching Kiefer's eyes, fully committed to cutting off the passing lane to the corner shooter in that microscopic window of opportunity. Kiefer Ravena executed a play that only a seasoned maestro can pull off. He did not settle for the contested mid-range jumper. He did not force a dangerous pass into traffic. Instead, he used his body to shield the ball, snaked his way into the heart of the paint, and drew 3 separate defenders toward him. And right at the very last millisecond, right as the defense collapsed on him like a tidal wave, he threaded a perfectly timed, pinpoint pass right into the shooting pocket of his teammate for an absolutely back-breaking, wide-open shot. It was a beautiful thing to witness. It was not just a physically impressive play. It was an intellectually dominant play. Kiefer used the opposing team's own aggressiveness and adrenaline against them. While the other team was playing with frantic, complaining energy, Kiefer was playing with cold, calculating precision. That is the difference between a good player and a great player. That is why Kiefer Ravena is known as a phenom. He slows the game down in his mind, while everyone else is speeding up. This combination of Kai Sotto's physical resilience and Kiefer Ravena's mental mastery created a perfect storm. It completely derailed the opposing team's game plan. You could physically see the frustration mounting on the face of Boy Complaint. His antics were not working. His flopping was not drawing fouls. His trash talk was being ignored. And on the other end, his team's defense was being systematically dissected by a veteran point guard who refused to be rattled by the physicality of the game. This game is a prime example of why statistics never tell the full story in basketball. You can look at the box score and see the points, the rebounds, and the assists. But the box score will never tell you about the elbows thrown in the paint. The box score will never tell you about the mental energy required to ignore a constantly whining opponent. The box score will never show you the subtle eye fake that Kiefer used to manipulate the weak side defense before making the game-winning assist. We also have to talk about the refereeing in games like this. Officiating a highly physical game with players who are actively trying to manipulate the whistle is one of the hardest jobs in sports. When the referees decide to let them play, it heavily favors the more physical, aggressive team. It turns the game into a wrestling match. But it also reveals the true character of players. Do you fold under the pressure? Do you complain when you get hit? Or do you tighten your shoelaces, lower your center of gravity, and fight back? Today, our Filipino stars chose to fight back. They chose to embrace the physicality. They understood that to win at this level, you cannot just be highly skilled. You have to be tough. You have to be absolutely unbreakable. As we wrap up this extensive deep dive, we have to look at the massive, overarching implications of this incredibly physical game. What does this mean moving forward? For Kai Sotto, this game was an absolute badge of honor. He proved to his critics, to the opposing coaches, and most importantly to himself, that he cannot be bullied out of a basketball game. You can send your biggest enforcers at him. You can assign a player to do nothing but complain and try to get in his head. You can make the game as ugly and as physical as humanly possible. And Kai Sotto will still find a way to make an impact. This kind of mental toughness is exactly what NBA scouts and top-tier international teams are looking for. They want to know what happens when the game gets hard. They want to know what a player does when his shots are not falling, and the referees are ignoring the fouls. Kai Sotto passed that test with flying colors today. He showed the grit and the grind that define a true professional. For Kiefer Ravena, this game was yet another addition to a highlight reel of clutch, high IQ basketball moments. It serves as a stark reminder to the rest of the league that you simply cannot make mistakes when he is on the floor. If you give him an inch, he will take a mile. If you blink, he will exploit your defensive rotation. The big-time play we analyzed today was not a fluke. It was a product of years of experience, film study, and an innate understanding of the geometry of the basketball court. Kiefer remains the ultimate floor general, a player who elevates everyone around him simply by understanding exactly what needs to be done in the most critical moments of the game. And for the opposing team, particularly our friend Boy Complaint, This game serves as a harsh lesson in the realities of professional basketball. Antics will only get you so far. Flopping and whining might win you a call in the first quarter. But in the fourth quarter, when the game is on the line and the intensity reaches its boiling point, the game is decided by skill, toughness, and execution. The basketball gods always reward those who respect the game and play it the right way. Ultimately, this was a proud day for Filipino basketball. We saw two of our brightest stars operating at different stages of their careers, demonstrating exactly why they belong on the international stage. We saw the perfect blend of youthful resilience and veteran cunning. We saw a physical war won not with complaints, but with undeniable talent and heart. If you enjoyed this incredibly detailed documentary-style breakdown of the game, if you appreciate the deep dive into the strategy, the psychology, and the raw drama of professional basketball, then please do me a massive favor. Hit that like button right now to support the channel. It tells the YouTube algorithm that this is a kind of high-quality, in-depth sports content that needs to be pushed out to more fans. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our future breakdowns. We're going to keep tracking Kai Sotto's journey, Kiefer Ravena's mastery, and all the biggest, most physical games happening across the globe. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. What did you think of the physical tactics used against Kai Sotto? Do you agree that his mental growth is just as impressive as his physical skills? And how would you rate Kiefer Ravena's clutch performance today on a scale of 1 to 10? Drop your opinions. Let's get a massive discussion going, and I will be down there responding to as many of you as I can. Thank you so much for tuning in, for staying with me through this massive breakdown, and for supporting the channel. Keep playing hard, keep supporting our athletes, and I will see you all in the very next video.